Quaquaval might just be the greatest water starter we've had competitively, for a few reasons. It's got solid base 120 physical attack, which is paired with its mid 85 speed, but it gets a ton of help outside of stats. While it's a bit of one-trick pony, its one trick turns out it's pretty damn good. Its signature move, Aqua Step, is an 80 base power physical water move that gives you +1 to speed every single time. And Game Freak decided also to give it the Moxie ability, which boosts its attack by 1 stage after every single knockout. I like to toss on an Assault Vest for some extra special bulk, and Utility and Rapid Spin for hazard removal with another built-in speed boost method is insanely good. Stab close combats do crazy damage, especially after Moxie boosts, and to round it out, it's got good coverage in Triple Axle, which catches people by surprise, or you can run with Knockoff for another amazing option. Overall, Quaquaval can snowball out of control super quickly with essentially a built-in Dragon Dance with every kill, and love or hate this thing design-wise, the Sausage Toes Peacock is an absolute menace. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going killing with the most intimidating thing possible, a wet chicken. Also, I'd recommend if you do not want to take a watery Aqua Step foot to the face, you should hit that subscribe button. It's free, it only takes you a second, I promise you will not regret it. And with that, let's get into the match. Alright, so first thing to note, as my opponent's going to lead off with the Drought Ninetales, they've got a little dual weather situation going on. They of course have they've got the sun, but they also have Tyranitar paired with the Sand Rush, Sand Slash. Things are going to get crazy and the weatherman's probably pissed. So I decided to lead off with the Rotom Mow, and obviously as the sun comes up, I'm just going to Volt Switch out of here. I know that I can get some good chip and then switch into something a little more appropriate. I did do some nice damage there, and we can save the Rotom for later. So that does reveal that I'm Scarf, but that's fine. Now, looking at what I've got to swap into this thing, I figured they probably just go for something like a Flamethrower. Not exactly sure, but it seems like a pretty good idea to get Garchomp in early. I can get up some Stealth Rock. I know that I should be able to take attacks from this thing. I am max special defense on the guy. And as they click the Overheat, it doesn't do much even with the Sun Boost. But as they get that special attack drop, now they get themselves a nice little bit of momentum with the Eject Pack. So lowering the stats activates Eject Pack. Now they can decide a matchup accordingly on the Chomp. And in comes arguably one of the biggest kind of threats in terms of sweepers on their side, which is going to be the Venusaur. So I figure, honestly, I have two options here. Either I set up Stealth Rock or I go for some chip. I'm kind of worried about this Venusaur, as it's going to be able to hit really hard. I was thinking maybe they'd go for a turn 1 growth, but instead, as they click Solar Beam, beams me right to the neck, and I live it. Since I'm literally specially defensive as tits, I can take it, and then we love when a plan comes together. I go for the Earthquake, again, because this Plant Frog is such a problem to my team. I know that it's going to be fast under Sun. It's just a crazy sweeper, and I need all the damage I can get on the guy, so as they finish me with a Giga Drain, which is unfortunate because they get some health back, I did not end up getting my rocks up, so just going to have to deal with it. We're just going to raw dog the match with no rocks, and sometimes that's just the way she goes. So here's the problem. I do not have anything faster than a Chlorophyll Venusaur, so I figure one plan I can do is this. I can go into the Greedent, who just looks happy to be a part of it every time, but knowing that I can take an attack from this thing, I could then fire off a Gyro Ball, and depending on how much health they get back from a Giga Drain, I'm thinking I still get a kill here. This thing is incredibly way faster than me. So a Gyro Ball should definitely bop it. Now, as they do Giga Drain, I have so much HP that they heal themselves pretty nicely. Now, after Life Orb Chip, I'm thinking Gyro Ball still has a shot to grab a kill here, and it does not. It ends up living it, which is not great. But at this point, here's the thing. They're forced to go for a Solar Beam if they want the kill, and that's what they're going to do here. So after the Life Orb Chip, it's going to put this thing in a position where it should be a little easier to take care of. So Absolute fires its laser and blasts the hell out of my Squirrel. And that's just kind of what happens against the Sun team when you're not prepared. I just do not have much that wants to deal with it. It does live the Life Orb Chip, down goes the Squirrel, but the Sunlight goes away. And that is amazing news, because now this thing no longer has the doubled speed, and I've got a couple different shenanigans to try to get going here. So I also mentioned that this Mew team was going to be the last time we saw it. It's back. Surprise. But I go into the weirdier here. Now this is just because I know that I can take an attack from the thing. Intimidate obviously doesn't matter, but at this point I'm running out of kind of options. This team is very reliant on one of my things being able to be a win condition. And so far, stuff's getting kind of knocked out a little bit too quick. So they decide to save the Venusaur. They know they can probably bring it back in with Sun later and at least get one big fast attack off. So expecting potentially a swap there, or even if the Venusaur just stayed in, I go for the agility, which is great. But looking at the Tyranitar, not the obviously best matchup here. I can't stored power the thing. I only have one agility. But what I do have is the ability to put the damn earth on my head. I'm gonna go for the Terra Ground. Now here's the thing that I kind of first immediately thought. If this Tyranitar tries to Dragon Dance in front of me, it's gonna activate my Mirror Herb, and then this thing's gonna find some problems. So first of all, I go for the Terra Ground, covers for me being able to live a crunch, and then I can get up another agility. That's also gonna be able to boost up an earth power. And even though this thing gets the boost, especially defensive in the Sandstorm, I should be able to grab a 2-hit KO with an earth power. Now as they go for a payback, that hurts. It does a little bit more than we would like, but at this point I figure, well, I'm just gonna fire off an earth power. It doesn't do half, which is unfortunate, and then one more payback kills me. So look, I'm down. I'm in a spot where, you know, I've used up my Terra. A couple of my sweeper options have been kind of used up, and things are not looking great. They've got a full team. They got the full squad over there. I'm down to 3. But one thing I do have that looks really nice here is the Peacock, baby. I can bring in Quaquaval. And honestly, looking at their squad, if I can start to snowball this thing, we have a great win condition immediately on our hands. So I'm just going to go for an Aqua Step. Reason for, I just need the speed boost. If I can get 2 of them, I will be fast enough to likely outspeed anything they've got, even with their, you know, ability boost. But they expect potentially a close combat. They're going to go Terra Ghost, which is great. Very glad I did not click the close combat, because now I'm thinking Aqua Step still should be able to grab a kill. And yeah, like half health, it does not. This is the bulkiest Tyranitar ever. It did not. Honestly, kind of thought that was still going to be able to kill. But then as they fire off a body press, that reveals this thing's probably working on interesting T-Tar. Going with a body press set. It doesn't do much to me, which is nice. And then what's even better is that since it stayed alive and it didn't do much damage to me, I can go for a second Aqua Step immediately. Not only grab a kill, I get the speed boost along with the Moxie that comes with it. So all of a sudden the game is relatively flipped on its head. Quaquaval tends to do that. It's generally not what I kind of expect to sweep on this squad, but when you can find a position, this thing gets out of control. So I'm now at +2 speed. I have speed doubled and I have an attack boost from Moxie. And I've got pretty damn nice looking coverage on everything they've got, especially since they burnt their Terra on the Tyranitar. We're looking pretty nice. So they decide now to go into the Sandslash, who does have Sand Rush. Speed is doubled, but luckily since I got 2 Aqua Steps, my speed is also doubled, and guess what, baby? I'm naturally faster. These sausage toes get going, and an Aqua Step is going to be enough to kill it with that Moxie. So all the things kind of align there. The 2 Aqua Steps and the Moxie boost allow us to get the kill on the Sandslash. Not only that, but I get another speed boost and another Moxie. So now they're probably sitting there like, well, I guess they got to figure out something to do against the Duck, man. This thing's insane. Now, they decide to go back into the Ninetales for one reason here. First of all, it sets up the Drought, and even though I'm faster, an Aqua Step does still kill Under the Sun. It's going to reduce my water damage by 50%. But again, like literally this is a Mash A simulator kind of guy. You can straight up just sit here, Aqua Step all over, grab not only the speed boost, but the Moxie that comes with it. And I have so many boosts at this point that it doesn't necessarily even matter that the sun is up. So here's the thing. They can now bring in one of their final 3 mods. It's going to be a Metachamp. Expecting this thing to be Scarf. I still outspeed even if it's Choice Scarf here. And looking at this damage, with the amount of Moxies that I have, I can go right for a resisted close combat. Straight up bop him right in his nipple knees, and that is going to kill the Metachamp. So didn't need to Aqua Step. Close combat does more in the sun, and just to make matters worse, we get ourselves another Moxie. So while, you know, all of my setups were not working for us, sometimes all you need is the Peacock to come around just walking around like Quack Sparrow. So now they can go into Venusaur, who does stay alive. In the sun, I am faster because all of my Aqua. We were just over here grooving, dude, getting all sorts of speed. One final Aqua Step is going to kill the Venusaur, and kind of a wild little Quaquaval situation. So one mod left is going to be Typhlosion. This thing's also likely potentially Choice Scarfed, but again, I have so many Aqua Steps that it doesn't matter how many scarfs this guy's wearing, we're going to be able to outspeed. So I go for the close combat as just my biggest damage here with all the Moxie boosts in the world. That is going to straight up just delete the thing. So that is one way to turn the game around that does not look too great for us, and Quaquaval is probably the best at being able to get these late game sweeps. So that's going to be the end of that one, and that exactly shows the power that this thing is working with, and I thought that was pretty fun. So with that, that's now going to bring us into game number 2. Look, if you've stuck around this far into the vid, you are required by YouTube law to hit the like button, and if I hit 5,000, something crazy I haven't figured out yet. Something's going to happen though, but let's get into the game. Alright, so this time my opponent is going to lead off with everybody's favorite Dancing Penguin. They've got the Empoleon, and especially in this matchup, I lead off with Rotom because Not only do I have a pretty good matchup on a lot of their lead options, they don't have a ground type, so I'm free to just grab another Volt Switch and just grab myself an immediate position. Knowing that the Empoleon does not want to stay in, it's kind of just a free little matchup for me. So, as they end up bringing in Trevenant, this is a creepy bastard that ends up being a little bit more of a problem than you kind of imagine a lot of the time, but I get the Volt Switch, so I get, you know, pretty much no damage, but at least I can now figure out what I want to do versus this guy. So, generally, I'm always thinking kind of, if possible, pivoting into Garchomp early is great because I can get up my Stealth Rock, and again, this bulky Chomp is just sweet. So, I decided to just obviously go right for that Stealth Rock. I'm thinking Trevenant can't really do too much to me. If it wants to Horn Leech, yeah, it's going to do like a little bit, but then it's going to get Rocky Helmeted and then Rough Skinned, and you're going to have a bad time touching our guy over here. Pause. So, they go for the Leech Seed, which is one of the reasons why Trevenant is more annoying than you expect. I'm always just thinking it's going to be like going for Poltergeist, but yeah, no, it just Leech Seeds and then just stays alive over there and is bulky. So, now I'm like, you know, I can't really touch that thing that hard in return. And then I realized I should probably get in something that I can, you know, pressure it a bit more offensively with. And I've got myself Hisuian Arcanine. So, as I bring Buddy in, they do click the Poltergeist here, which is going to reveal my Choice or Expert Belt, so I can no longer kind of bluff the fact that I might be Choice Scarfed, but it also does just a ton of damage. And I'm like, well, might as well just click a Flare Blitz here, force a swap, or bring out a Defensive Terra. They're going to go with the latter. They go for the Defensive Terra, which is honestly not great because they go for Terra Water, allowing this thing to be able to live a Flare Blitz easily. And then this Trevenant's just becoming, again, just more of a problem than I wanted it to be. And as I do connect on a Blitz, it still does great damage because Arcanine's a freaking nuke. But now as they Horn Leech, they expected to be able to just not only knock me out, but get some health back. I leave it with 1, which is pretty damn, I mean, that's just the universe saying that Arcanine was not ready. So I leave it with 1, which is just unfair. Now, luckily, since I'm not choiced, I can click a Head Smash, and that is going to straight up kill it. So I just got gifted 1, which is great, because not only do I kill the Trev, I also get rid of their Terra, and that is a great spot to be in, especially considering, looking at this matchup, Quaquaval has potential to be a little late game sweep, and without a defensive Terra, that just makes it so much easier on me. So now as they go back into Empoleon, I'm thinking, you know, they do not have Stealth Rock up. I could potentially save the Arcanine and just get some value out of it later. There's no really reason for me to stay in here. I do not have Wild Charge. So I'm going to immediately go into the Quaquaval here. Looking at this kind of team comp, I'm in a spot where Quaquaval, once again, just has coverage and looks pretty nice against a lot of their stuff. So, look, obviously, whenever you're trying to consider if you have a sweep option, you just have to look at what their switch-ins would be. Now, the main problem for Quaquaval is going to be their Galarian Weezing. Knowing that they likely swap that thing in, I decide to end up bringing in Garchomp. And while that sounds counterintuitive to bring the Dragon in against a Fairy, I figure I can hit it really hard with an Earthquake. I can take an attack or 2 from it since I'm max Spadef. And if I get 1 Earthquake off on the guy, Quaquaval's game is busted wide open. Pause. But they do make the double switch. As I bring in Chomp expecting to meet Doug Dimmadome, owner of the damn Dimsdale Dimmadome. They do swap into the thing, and that's pretty nice. Now, the problem is this. I was expecting to be able to bop it with an Earthquake, but one thing that tells me I cannot do that is that as it switched in, we did not see the Misty Surge activate or Neutralizing Gas. That only leaves Levitate for its final ability option, and it's definitely Levitating, which is wildly annoying because I was really hoping to Quake it, but now I am kind of forced to swap. So, knowing that they did get the Stealth Rock up and I didn't have a chance to really Rapid Spin, I decided to use that as a momentum swap to just kind of sack the Arcanine there, which should be able to put me in a decent spot. And again, I just really need some chip on this Weezing. Just kind of looking at Quaquaval as being my little late game sweeper, like a damn janitor. But first I can bring in everybody's favorite Squirrel. Greedent is very fun, and it's not as much fun when they freaking have Taunt. They do have Taunt on the thing, so we've seen 2 of this thing set. Taunt obviously stops Greedent from being able to do whatever the hell this thing wants to do. And I'm kind of worried about something being Will-O-Wisp. I don't really want to swap into anything here. Kind of want to see what this thing does. It does stay in, it just goes for a Toxic. So again, freaking Doug over here is just ruining my damn day. But at least as I get a Gyro Ball off, it does get some pretty considerable chip on the thing. And it reveals a Rocky Helmet. So Greedent is probably not this day to... It's probably not Greedent's day to just, you know, do some crazy berry stuff. But, I mean, look at, he's over here poisoned, still having a good time. You can't knock the guy. He's just having fun out here. So I continue to just go for some damage, but honestly, that amount of chip that we got on the thing is pretty solid, because now the next time, if they want to swap that thing into an Aqua Step, it can't take 2, and now boom, that's pretty much all we needed. So as Mandibuzz comes in, I'm not super worried unless this is some type of crazy weak armor set that's gonna like just boost up on me. It's more than likely gonna be there for defog, so I'm like, you know, this is kind of a spot where I can curse. If they go for a defog here, which they do, I can then get up a free curse. I'll also pop myself down into Citrus Berry range with the Cheek Pouch. Even though I'm badly poisoned, still gonna put me in a pretty good position here with the Squirrel. And again, Greedent is one of those guys that you cannot sleep on the Squirrel. This thing is a threat. So I go for that curse. They do get rid of the Stealth Rock on my side as well, which is kind of nice. But as the Toxic is starting to rack up, does knock me down to the point where Greedent's like, you know what, I could go for a snack. And since I'm about obese as hell, Squirrel's like, you know what, I could go for a second snack that was not quite as filling. We get the Cheek Pouch. That's going to give us even more than the first one did, and now we're just back to pretty much full, which is great, because now I'm in a position where also I could use some chip on the Mandibuzz here. So they go for a Foul Play, which doesn't do much, which is great. I hit him with a Gyro Ball, and as that brings it to half, the problem becomes this thing probably has Roost, and that would not really necessarily be ideal. And again, I'm still trying to play toward a Quaquaval kind of late game sweep here. And knowing that this thing goes for the Roost, it also has coverage with the potential for a Brave Bird against the Peacock. So I'm thinking I'm just going to stay in here, try to end this matchup with as much damage on the thing as I possibly can. But then again, there's really no reason for them to not just mash Roost again. But they also run the chance of getting crit by the Squirrel. And that's a very viable option. I'm just going to continue to Gyro Ball here. They do Roost back up. And luckily, my Gyro Ball going second is going to bring it back down. And then I just die to my poison. So honestly, still pretty decent work from the Squirrel. This thing is fun. So down goes Young Pancake. And now I got to figure out what my best option is here for a swap in. Now, obviously, it's going to be the Rotom Mow. I threatened this thing out with the Volt Switch. And they also don't have much that wants to deal with the Rotom. Now, here's the thing. I'm expecting them fully to go in their special defense wall, which is going to be a Porygon 2. If there's one thing we know for sure, that Rubber Duck is coming in here. And expecting that, I decided to click the Trick. And that is one of the best ways that you can get around Porygon 2 being an annoying-ass wall, is take its Eviolite, rip the Eviolite from his little Rubber Duck hands. It's going to just, essentially just drops this thing's defenses by 50%, which is fantastic value. And now, also looking at this matchup, surely they're going to click an Ice Beam here. So as I Volt Switch for a little bit of damage, I'm also now in a spot where Quaquaval pretty freely comes in here. The one thing I am worried about with the Porygon 2 is if they expected to switch here and go for like a Thunder Wave, which would be bad. You know, obviously Quaquaval does rely on getting its speed kind of built up, but they do click Ice Beam, which is sweet because now, you know, with an Assault Vest and Resist, it doesn't do a damn thing. And now I threaten Buddy with the Close Combat. So I'm thinking surely they do not stay in here, and instead of going for the Close Combat coverage, I can click an Aqua Step to just immediately be faster than everything, but also Close Combat doesn't do much to a Weezing, and I need to catch this thing swapping into an Aqua Step. So that is exactly what happens, and this is why we needed that amount of damage we had on the thing, because it cannot take two of these, and obviously us being faster, we don't really care about the Rocky Helmet, because I'm in a point where I'm thinking crazy dancing fella over here is going to sweep it. So I finish it off with one more Aqua Step, which is great. Brings me to +2 speed. We are doubled and faster than everything, and while we do take Rocky Helmet, that is fine. But not only that, we also get the Moxie that comes with it. So with a +1, I'm thinking coverage with either Close Combat or a Triple Axle on the Mandibuzz is going to be one way for me to get around it. But they instead decided to bring in the Porygon 2. So here's where I'm going to be completely real with you. First of all, them going into Porygon 2 just immediately planted the seed in my head that they're going to go for a Ghost Terra. Now, immediately as I click Aqua Step, I realized they already used their Terra, and I'm just a dumbass. So my way to combat a Ghost Terra was to go for a Water Terra of my own, be able to boost up my own Aqua Step, and then just straight up kill the thing. It does not have an Eviolite, so it's not nearly as bulky. And there was just no Terra coming. I was like, I don't know why they go into Porygon 2 here unless they click Terra, but yeah, no, they already used it. But I'm thinking, hey, maybe an Aqua Step still just kills. It does not. It lives it barely. Just barely is able to hang on. And while I do get another speed boost, now I suffer the consequence of being Thunder Waved. And that is not great. So cuts my speed in half, but honestly, unless I get really unlucky on these, I'm still in a spot where I'm going to be faster than everything, especially since I can go for another Aqua Step here. So they decided to end up saving the Porygon 2, and I'm kind of fine with that because it can't really, it's basically useless at this point. And as they swap into the Empoleon, I do connect on an Aqua Step. I don't get fully paralyzed, which is great. And with the boost that I have, Aqua Step is still nearly a 2-hit KO on the thing, which is great. But now as I'm looking at it, honestly, this Empoleon, it cannot take a Close Combat. One thing it can do, though, is, you know, bait me into getting fully paralyzed. But then as I'm looking at it, you know, I'm Assault Vest. It can't really touch me with much. And as I go for the close combat, I don't get fully parried, which is sick as hell. Able to show who the greatest water starter is, and the close combat finishes it. Now again, I have coverage on their entire squad at this point. Without a Galarian wheezing around, Quaquaval is running around for damn free out here. And we're looking pretty nice because now that gives us another Moxie. I still have so many speed boosts that even through Para, we're going to be faster than everything. So they now bring in the friggin' Bugs Bunny over here. Now I'm thinking surely just outspeed and Aqua Step kills it. In my mind, all I had to do was not get fully parried, but nope, they have the Sucker Punch in with the defensive drop from the close combat. That's going to be enough to kill me. So that is a little bit of a buzzkill, but as Quaquaval goes down, we've done enough work to where I feel like we should be able to pull this one back. So here's the thing. I'm relatively free to go into the Alchemy here. This is kind of an interesting, like, Mirror Herb. I don't know. I wanted to try to use Psych Up and try to potentially catch something setting up, and if I don't get it to Mirror Herb, I can then Psych it up and just the stored power stuff. Overall, this creamy guy is weird, but I bring this thing in because I do have coverage, you know, with the Draining Kiss here, and as they go into Porygon 2, the download activates my Mirror Herb, which gives me a random attack boost for pretty much nothing, which is fun. So, you know, I go for the Draining Kiss, smooch him right on the beak, and that does kill the Porygon, which is good because that fella probably would have been able to recover. And dude's got a pretty intense defensive core, but we're able to break through it a bit. So the one good thing is this. Alchemy has a good matchup against the Mandibuzz, and it kind of forces the Cinderace to come in. That's their final two Mons, and I'm mostly just hoping that my little dessert shawty can pull it off for us. So I decided to click the stored power. It's just going to do more damage on the Cinderace here, and since the battle's winding down in terms of timer, I figured maybe they stay in here and just Pyro Ball for Chip, but instead they U-turn, and that does so much damage. But now the bad news is they bring in Mandibuzz. That thing, you know, is obviously Dark type, and the stored power is not going to do nothing to it. But at least we have some chip on the thing, and it's kind of forced to, you know, they have to get some knockouts here. It's a 3-2 game here. And as they go for a Toxic, they're like, you know what, this is fine. There's 60 seconds left in the game. I'm gonna play the long game and see how it goes for me. But, you know, at least I do have Draining Kiss, which can potentially do some nice damage to the thing. But Mandibuzz way too friggin' bulky. And while I am at least healing myself up, Alchemy is becoming a little bit of a problem for him. You know, Cinderace is kind of forced to be able to be the one that has to attack me. But then I have coverage on pretty much everything they've got left. So they do swap out. They're just going to go right back into the Cinderace. They realize, you know, I got the Toxic. Time to see if we can get some damage on the thing. And as I do, just Draining Kiss. Plant a little smooch on him. It doesn't do anything. And, you know, without this setup and stored power, this Alchemy's not going to be able to get too damn far. But I'm expecting fully to be able to take an attack from the Cinderace. And I'm like, you know, I can click stored power still. But as they go for a Pyro Ball, I am in fact left in the oven for too long and just burnt to a crisp. That does just outright kill me. But as the game comes to timer, I essentially have the two Mons I need left. I have Garchomp, who can easily take an attack from this thing, and then I have Rotom for the Mandibuzz in the back. So as I bring in the Garchomp, Charles is not going to be able to click anything because of timer, but that's going to be essentially the end of that one, as we both had two Mons left. Kind of a crazy ending, but again, I still, you know, feel like I had the Mons I needed, and that was kind of a crazy ending. Them baiting me to close combat the Empoleon so that their Sucker Punch would kill was wild. And yeah, that's gonna do it. Thank you guys very much for watching. I really appreciate the support, and I will catch you next time. Peace out.